All right. Well, we're fashionably late here at 2:02 with a 2 o'clock start time, but that's okay. It was worth the wait, and I want to welcome everybody to SoCast's May webinar. It is Ask the Experts is back. This has been, this will be, I think, our third year in a row doing this one. It's becoming an annual, and it's always one of the most well-registered and most well-attended. And I am really thrilled with the experts I've been able to, who have been so courteous to give us the time. We'll introduce them in a moment. I know you see their faces, and a lot of you probably looked at who they were before, but we are very excited to get your questions answered by our panel of experts, and let's get into it so we can make sure we get through as many as we can. Before we introduce them, I have a little bit of housekeeping. Please feel free to ask questions in the sidebar. I do want to say that those questions today will not be answered by our panelists. We're not doing real-time answers. You guys were all amazing in submitting great questions to us in advance, so we could prepare a lot of information for you to walk away with some really tactical and valuable information that you can take back and execute at your stations and with your teams. Nonetheless, the questions you do submit in the sidebar today, we will be happy to take back and answer remotely after the webinar with our panelists as well. So don't be afraid to ask questions or even follow-on questions as well. I am your host, Eric Eisen. I am the Director of Sales and Marketing here at SoCast. Those who have attended our webinars before know how much I love these. This is my favorite part of the month and probably my favorite part of my job amongst many, but I love doing these, and this is probably my favorite one. Please tweet your thoughts on Twitter at SoCast is our handle, and you can either use one of two hashtags. You can ask the expert hashtag, hashtag ask the expert, or hashtag digital dollars today. That's our standard one. But let's get into it. A little bit of a word from your sponsor, us here at SoCast. Our mission at SoCast is to help radio broadcasters make digital growth easy. And when I say that, a couple of takeaways for all of you. One, SoCast is fixated on helping radio broadcasters only. Our platform is not designed for just a wide array of verticals or other solutions. We are hyper-focused on helping radio broadcasters thrive in the digital era. And we really want to help them thrive in two different areas. One, we want to help them create more content and more engagement with their audience to grow listenership, first-party data through their websites, through their mobile apps, through social media, through Alexa smart speaker skills. We really want to make it easy to push out as much content as possible to drive engagement, drive listenership. So then on the other side of it, you can turn that into dollars and to get an ROI from your digital properties. And we have a great tool set that will help you deliver more owned and operated sales. That is selling more of the banners and boxes and video pre-rolls on your websites and mobile apps, as well as deliver impression-based campaigns where you can deliver impressions through geofencing, retargeting, targeted display to your ad partners, so you can facilitate offering them a full comprehensive marketing solution from creating awareness all the way through conversion. And we also have our own in-house experts that are here to train you and work with you to help close deals and make sure that you are generating the most revenue you can from the digital channel. We work with broadcasters of all shapes and sizes, from small single station owner operated all the way up through enterprise level groups in small, medium, micro, and large size markets. And we can definitely help all of you out there today. We'd be happy to help you with just our solution as well as offering our expertise. So don't be afraid to request a demo using the sidebar or the question. I'll also be providing you with my contact information at the end, and you can definitely reach out and we can talk how we can help your radio station really grow and thrive in the second half of 2021. But enough about SoCast, just a little bit of advertorial there. The rest is all about you, our attendees today who are making the time. And we're going to take a little bit of time to introduce our experts today. We have an amazing panel of experts today, and we are thrilled to have them. So please help me join me in welcoming them. I want to start out with our very own Victor Giacomelli. Victor is a member of the SOCAST team now. He comes from an amazing background of 28 years of sales and senior management experience within the radio broadcast industry. Most recently, he spent the last 4 years as Director of Sales and Senior Vice President of Revenue at the amazing, legendary Hot 97 at WBLS and WBLS in New York City, which is North America's largest market. But he's held management roles at all levels across North America, from regional sales manager to general sales manager to director of sales to VP of sales. And he is now working with SOCAST to offer training support and the tools that you, our friends out there, need to become digital advertising experts to maximize revenue growth. And we're thrilled to have him on our team. Next, back for more punishment is my good friend Seth Resler, who I always love having on here, the digital dot connector himself. For those of you, I would be amazed if some of you don't know who he is, but he is a great broadcasting veteran who for over 2 decades has worked both behind the mic and at the programming desk in all size major markets such as New York, Boston, Seattle, St. Louis, Providence, San Jose. And he left radio in 2006 to enter the world of online marketing, but he kept returning to the broadcasting industry, teaching radio stations how to apply the online marketing techniques being used by Silicon Valley companies today. He writes a regular column about podcasting on the radio industry website, allaccess.com. He also hosts the Worldwide Radio Summit podcast and the Debrief podcast. And in 2015, he joined Jacobs Media as the digital dot connector, helping radio stations combine all of their digital tools into one overarching strategy. So thank you, Seth, for being here. Always a pleasure to have you on. Next, we have another great friend who I've worked with a number of times over the last few years, presenting and learning a ton from, Mr. Jeff Schmidt from the RAB. Jeff likes to start with why, and Jeff's why is to inspire, engage, educate, equip, and empower people to believe in themselves, have the confidence in their ability, and achieve even greater levels of success, however they define that success. As Senior Vice President of Professional Development, Jeff oversees the professional development group across all of the Radio Advertising Bureau's training services and works with the industry's leadership to continue to provide a professional development practice positioned to serve an evolving industry sales force focused on digital solution-based integrated marketing and sales efforts. Amazing to have you here, Jeff. Thanks for being here. And we'll look forward to some of your amazing insights. I always love hearing you chat. Last and not least, I'm thrilled to have Randy Papul here today. I've been working with Randy on and off for a number of years, and she began her career as a morning show host in a small town in Washington. From there, she moved to Salt Lake City and worked as the promotions director and on-air personality for nearly 10 years. And then she was recruited as the director of marketing for Alpha in Portland, Oregon. And was there. Within a few years, she was promoted to corporate VP of marketing for the company. And in 2019, she moved to work with Aptivada as the chief marketing officer. Most recently, Randy was able to leave Aptivada, and I'm really proud of her that she's created her own marketing company, Papul Media. Her media experience spans all facets of the industry, from small to large markets, local to corporate initiatives, and stations in need that are looking for vendor partnerships. She has twice been named one of the most influential women in radio by Radio Inc. And again, we're thrilled to have her here today. I think we have an amazing panel, guys, and I got so many questions. Thank you all for joining me. We got a lot to get into today, a lot of amazing questions, and we're gonna get right into them right now. I want to start out, we're going to really sort of mix them up. I will say for our attendees today, you know, there was a mix of a lot of programming based questions, digital content related questions, a lot of sales questions, and we have a great cross section of experts here who will address them. So let's get into it and look at our first question. So radio is generally good at helping others market themselves, but many of us have dropped the ball on marketing ourselves. What tips do you have for those looking to improve the marketing of their own stations and brands? And the first person I'm going to pass this off to, and I encourage all of our panelists to feel free to add any value with additional insights. Randy, can you add a little bit of color to this and maybe give some tips on those looking to improve their own marketing who may have been more focused on helping particularly some of their advertising partners?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, good afternoon. I think this question, it's great because this is such a common issue among radio stations all across the country. And I really think that we forget about a lot of the tools that we are offering our clients, to your point, Eric, such as, we're either doing it in-house or we're white labeling targeted display, programmatic ads, geofencing, things like that, that we are offering our clients that we forget to take advantage of ourselves. Not only that, but the thing that I always think about is we have in-house great copywriting as well. And we tend to want to get through our day, get through our week by just checking a box like we got it all done, but we're not taking advantage of those things. And so that's something that I think we really need to sit and think about. But on top of that, to the point of the clients, we are helping our clients every single day, and I think we're trying to make sure we put revenue to the bottom line. But one thing we need to think about is that we position our AEs as the marketing experts for these clients, right? The all-encompassing marketing experts. And one thing I've seen a lot of stations do is hold marketing workshops for clients. So they bring them in for an hour and a half, and they go through all of the needs and the challenges that client is having. So that is our opportunity to leverage that client and what they want to be doing, that marketing plan for us as well. So an example of that is that you have a client that is looking to do station endorsements. Well, at that point, not only can you offer the endorsements, but you can also offer the targeted ads and the targeted display and the programmatic, the pre-rolls, but they are co-branded because you're doing endorsements. So I've seen a lot of stations do this where they find success on this because now the ads aren't just for the client, they're also promoting the station, the on-air personality. And so I think we often have to look at those client relationships and opportunities and leverage those. And hopefully everybody's doing this already, but one of the things that we used to really focus on at Alpha was the community relationships. So making sure that we had a tight partnership with the television stations, the newspaper, any of the local business alliances, because those are also opportunities to network and promote our stations. So you have to kind of look outside of like I said, ticking the box, what we typically do just to kind of get through the day and get revenue to the bottom line and go, how can we benefit from these opportunities that we're helping our clients with?
Excellent. That's great. And, I wanted to also ask Victor, coming from a larger market as well, maybe if you had, any good valuable tips on, the way you Hot 97 and those type of, and the stations you worked at, how they marketed themselves above and beyond, supporting what you did there.
I think to Randy's point, just using social media would be the only other thing that I would add in, is that social is a great way to cast the wide net. Obviously at Hot, we had a big YouTube channel. We had, I think, 3.3 million subscribers to our YouTube channel. So that was a good place to cast the wide net and bring people in to consume some of the content. But you're already seeing broadcasters here in Canada using Facebook display ads to promote potential tune-ins. So I think using social is another great tool to extend the reach of the station and tap into those P1s to grow time spent.
Excellent. All right.
Can I add something to that?
Seth, I would love if you added something to that.
I think companies also need to think about building their brand, not just at the station level, which is where radio companies have always built their brand, but also at the corporate level. Very few radio companies outside of NPR and iHeart have brand names that mean anything to the general public. And I think increasingly, maybe BBC. I think increasingly we need to do that. The artist formerly known as Entercom not only went through a name change, but they're clearly building Odyssey as a public-facing brand And I know this because our Facebook ads keep showing up in my Facebook feed. I mean, that's meant to be, and I think other companies need to do the same, that they really need to build their brand at a corporate level.
Right.
Can I add one more thing as well?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Seth. Yes, Jeff, please add in.
As one of the two sales guys in the room, there's a sales implication to this too. You have to have credibility with your clients when you're talking specifically about digital products. And I think that if you were to, I'm familiar with a guy, and I know Seth knows him, Vince Benedetto has a Facebook page in Scranton, Pennsylvania with over 1 million followers. So when Vince's team goes in and talks to the local advertiser in Scranton, Pennsylvania about Facebook, they have an inherent credibility because they're doing so well in it. And I think that there's a reason to follow Randy's advice and Seth's advice to enhance your digital presence, because it enhances your credibility when selling those same products.
That all makes a ton of sense. I mean, that is a great way to look at your business a little bit differently, rather than considering them as individual brands. Looking at yourself, making yourself your broadcast company as that local digital expert who provides radio and more, I think, is a great way to look at things. Moving on to our next, a question that came up a number of times in one iteration or another. And I have to tell our audience, we had a little webinar prep session on Friday, and it was supposed to be 30 minutes. And just listening to these guys, there was just so much information. It was great, and the banter was great. So I think, we're also excited to share all of our insights with you. But this question came up a number of times. And I'll put it to really sort of Seth and Randy to start the conversation, maybe starting with Seth. What recommendations do you guys have to increase interaction on some of the individual station web pages? And what are some of the best practices there?
Yeah, it comes down to the quality of the content at the end of the day. Think of a website the same way you think of your radio station. The moment you stop playing music or stop, putting audio content onto your airwaves, people are going to stop coming back. Same thing is true with your website. I see a lot of radio station websites, they put up static pages, they leave them there. Maybe they update the concert list if there's concerts going on, and a handful of things like that, but they're not pumping out new content on a regular basis. And really, that's what you need to do in order to get people to return time and time again, in order to get people to share your content on social media and in other places. And it's tricky, because we didn't get into this necessarily because we wanted to be writers or because we wanted to create videos. I mean, a lot of us just wanted to talk on the radio. But in this day and age, to be a media personality, you need to be a multimedia personality. You need to be, your primary skill set maybe in audio content creation, but you need to be able to do other things like write, like create video, stuff like that.
I agree with that. And hence me sort of putting up this slide, just that, it's not enough to just sort of have those static pages. You have to have content, and you have to amplify it. You have to put it out there into social media and drive traffic back to your websites. From our experience, our most successful partners do a great job at this, producing some unique content, sharing it in social media, making it relevant, making sure that it's quality. And I also feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe all four of you, but it takes planning as well. Just like you plan your entire programming week, you need to set aside some time for digital programming, because again, as Seth said, you're multimedia, or as I frequently say, you're omni-channel now. So very important to sort of think about that you're giving digital the time, because that's going to create the amplification and drive traffic back to your digital properties from our perspective.
Yeah, if I can just jump in, that's so true, because if you follow any really significant brand influencers, social media influencers, they will often share their content calendar. They do create a content calendar. And to Seth's point, it has to be consistent. And I think the biggest problem, what happens is you'll do it for a little bit, you'll get discouraged because not everything is killing it. You're not getting a ton of engagement on everything, but that's not the point. The point is to be consistent, putting out quality content and that people can rely on. And so I always like to tell people, there's a couple of people that I follow in radio that do, there's a guy out of California named Greg B. Harrell who puts out a video, you know who it is, Seth? Yeah, like almost every day. They're funny, they're not like huge, production things. They're just funny videos with funny content that relate to the audience. And so I think you just have to come up with a calendar, and it doesn't have to be, you're not creating this Spider-Man movie or whatever. It's just something that's going to, engage your audience. And also, I don't want to repeat myself because I have a feeling I might say this a couple times, but TikTok is a great place to get some content ideas. It really is. There's a lot of different types of genres and threads of things that people are doing. And I think it can be kind of a great idea starter for people for their digital content.
It's a great idea. It's a good place to find content.
If I can build off what Randy's saying, I think it's intimidating for a lot of radio programmers because they think that this is a whole new thing that they have to do. Here's the thing. You already know how to do this. It's just a different set of tools. When Randy says content calendar, that's Selector, but easier to use because it's just a spreadsheet, right? Like
Right.
You already know how to do that. And so when I was a program director, I'd walk into a music meeting every week with a stack of call out research and charts and this and that. And we basically decide, okay, what are we going to put on the air? What are we going to move to recurrent? What are we going to drop? So on and so forth. Creating content on your website is the exact same thing. You create your content, which is like throwing a record on the air, and you see if it does. And then you look at your Google Analytics, which is like looking at your call out. And if you see that a blog post about such and such, about craft beer or about, baseball or whatever does well, you sit there and you go, let's write more about craft beer. Let's write more about baseball, which is exactly the same as going, hey, every time we play Post Malone, people seem to like it. Let's play more Post Malone. And so you look for hits.
Yeah, it's great, and it simplifies it down. And I love how you put that in just very actionable context there for people. For those of you who are using SoCast out there, we have 4 tools that just came to mind as I created this, which is being able to have one-to-one activity stream conversations. To break down what that means is just having a place on your website or app, whether you're with SoCast or not, for people to make comments on your website. And I'm not talking through a forum, just in real time, as well as through the app, to send in a 30-second recording or a photo of themselves with your talent at a live remote. Being able to have those pushed out on the website through the app, through the website, etc. Ensuring that you're enabling people's comments on their blog. There is some danger there depending on, it's been an interesting year in terms of people's opinions, but it's definitely a way to increase engagement and to drive people there as well. And then of course, I know, Randy and Seth both mentioned social media directly and, inadvertently just a number of times as a critical tool to, again, I'll use the term amplify your content and drive web traffic back. So this question generated a lot of conversation with us on Friday when we first sat down. And the question is Gen Z has grown up in a total digital world, not word, apologize, and is uninterested in AM, FM radio. How do you get them interested? And immediately, I wanted to ask Jeff to start this conversation because he really felt strongly about this. And Jeff, tell us your thoughts.
Well, first of all, the question is based on a false premise that Gen Z is not interested in radio. In fact, radio still has 77% reach among teens 12 to 17. So we're still engaging the younger audience. And so there's not this mass exodus. Sure, they grew up with this being their radio instead of that being their radio, which is that old device back there. This is now their radio. They're streaming content. They're listening on the internet. And I want to go back to something Seth said in answer to the last question. We keep treating digital like it's this foreign alien that dropped on the planet in 2009, and all of a sudden we have to do all these things differently. Well, digital is just another tool in the toolbox. And radio, to Seth's point, radio has been the #1 content producer of all time. Every time somebody opens up a microphone, they're producing content. And what digital has really done is democratize development. What I mean by that is anybody can be a movie producer, anybody can be a blogger or an author, anybody can have a podcast. So digital doesn't care who you are. The space is available to everybody. And consumer choice is what's disrupting. There's no secret that there's some disruption in what consumers are choosing. But consumer choice is driven by content. To what Randy said and what Seth said, it's all about content. And as long as we align the content with the audience that we represent, we're going to do fine, whether it's digital or traditional medium. So radio still has 77% reach of teens, and I think there's another slide there to share. 83% of 18 to 49-year-olds are listening to radio every single week. That's traditional AM, FM radio. Now, they may be listening on the station app. They may be listening by a Jake app, or they may be listening by TuneIn or iHeartMedia or Odyssey now instead of radio.com, but we're still reaching 83% of them. So I think the question is somewhat flawed, and I'm not saying it's a bad question. It's a common misperception about radio is that people don't listen any longer, particularly the younger generations, and it's simply not true.
Does anybody have any advice, for those who are looking to maybe, because it sounds, Jeff, like for sure there's listening, and maybe the preconceived notion that they're not listening is definitely misinformed, but certainly maybe their share of ear is a little bit more fragmented, because we know younger people have so many more devices, so many more ways to tune in, and so much more competition for their eyeballs and ears. Anybody have any advice on some things that they can do to make sure that this demographic keeps coming back, or comes back consistently, and that we don't lose them in the future?
I have a 21-year-old, and he and I go back and forth on this all the time. He's at Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. Last week, he sent me a text that said, "I considered listening to the radio today. Didn't do it, but I considered listening to the radio." And of course, he's trying to rile Dad up a bit. And I said, "Okay, well, why did you consider it in the first place?" And he said, "Well, I have my Spotify playlist, and when I can start predicting the next song, it becomes boring. And I'm listening to music when I'm doing my homework. When I'm working out, when I'm doing anything. So when my playlist starts to become repetitive, I get bored. And the reason I listen to the radio, or consider listening to the radio, is that in addition to music that I don't know what's coming next, there are announcers that tell me interesting things about what's going on in my town, or tell me funny things about what's happening in the world." So again, what's driving him back to radio, or to at least consider AM, FM radio, is content. You've got to be interesting, you've got to be compelling, and you've got to be engaging. The same thing I would imagine Randy or Seth would say with regard to digital content.
Yeah. I think the word radio is a double-edged sword here, because the word radio actually means two different things that have been conflated. On the one hand, a radio is a device that delivers audio through a transmitter. It's a delivery system. And on the other hand, radio is the content that is delivered over that delivery system. So, like Jeff saying, when I listen to Bobby Bones, I'm listening to the radio, even if I'm not actually listening to a radio. Right? Even if I'm listening to it on Alexa or on, my smartphone or whatever. And I think that causes confusion, and that's one of the things that leads to this misperception that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a great point, Seth, because I was sat in on a seminar last week, and they were talking about just the consumption of radio. And I think you're right that when you put radio in a bucket, years ago, the average house had like 5 different appliances that had an AM and FM signal. And now the disruptor is everything's coming through either your Alexa or it's coming through your mobile device, but you're still consuming the terrestrial AM FM signal and the content that goes along with it. So it's still a robust industry if we stop pigeonholing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you're in the audio content business, there's never been a better time. Right?
Well, and I think that's why a lot of people have started talking audio instead of radio, just like they're talking video instead of television, because now this has become the TV screen. And you can watch TV on this, you can watch TV on the thing that's hanging on your wall, or you can watch TV on the thing that's in your pocket. But Seth's point is an excellent one, that radio used to be a device and a delivery mechanism, but now it is also the content that goes through multiple delivery systems, and that causes confusion.
Right.
Well, and to that point, the younger generations, I have a 16-year-old, they don't see a difference between the audio they're consuming and the video. So back to what Jeff said earlier, that's why you need to have the digital, the social media extension of your station so that they feel like you are part of their natural behavior every day because they're seeing you everywhere that they are.
Absolutely. I've been working at SoCast for it'll be like 7 years in a couple months, and it's amazing. When I first started here 6.5 years ago, whatever it was, I was talking to company X broadcasting, company X radio stations, whatever it is, and how many of those have changed their name to company X media and things, and that is a great sign that they are starting to embrace the idea, or many have already, but that shift is still happening, and it's really a matter of actually just taking the next steps and making yourself truly a media company rather than a broadcaster or a radio company. And it sounds like that's the advice you're all sort of sharing here, which is very pertinent. Now, converting digital into dollars is a big topic and questions we get all the time. And I want to start with Victor, because Victor, you've added a ton of color here to a lot of other people's comments, but what advice do you have on people who want to really increase their digital revenue and get started, or are struggling with really making it meaningful? What advice can you offer our friends out there?
Look, I think Randy hit the nail on the head when she talked about selling marketing solutions, not radio. I think when you start focusing on solving a customer's needs based on the customer journey, you put yourself in a whole different platform. So I think that's part one, Eric. I think the second thing is, I think there's got to be a commitment from the company, from the corporate entity, to train and develop their staff, because there's a lot of companies that spend more on hiring staff and hiring costs than training their salespeople. There's some companies I've seen that spend more on CRM programs, thinking that that's going to solve a problem than solve the whole sales process in terms of the customer journey. So I think that you need a corporate buy-in from the top on down. You need strong sales leaders to train and develop and coach salespeople, because I've never met a salesperson that wants to fail. They all want to succeed. And the only way to succeed is to try to get real-time coaching to help them develop and learn new skills. And shifting from a radio conversation to a customer journey conversation using digital assets is a big change. It's like someone said it to me once. It's like, in Canada, we got a lot of left-handed golfers, and now we're telling them you can't golf left-handed anymore. You got to golf right-handed. So you're gonna have to learn how to play using right-handed clubs. That takes time and practice, and not everyone is willing to do that. And I think for some salespeople, they have to have that willingness to make that change. Because if you think that they're going to make left-handed golf clubs for them anymore, that's not going to be the case. So I think that there has to be that commitment to learning and developing, and not being afraid to make a mistake in this space would be my advice on growing digital revenue.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned a couple of times, I want to put you a bit on the spot just because you mentioned that customer journey. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more and maybe explain to our audience like how they can impact the entire customer journey, so to speak, and what that means?
Yeah, like it's interesting. You go on to LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, and they make it very easy for local businesses to buy digital advertising. And they talk about the customer journey in 3 phases. It's either you're in the awareness phase to generate interest in a product. They talk about the consideration phase to generate demand in a product, and the conversion phase to ultimately convert them into a consumer. And we've made it very, very confusing at times as an industry to fit into one of those 3 kind of places. In the digital space for local clients, it's as easy as 3-4 clicks of the button to be able to accommodate that. And I think the more knowledge we get on how to solve those problems using marketing to solve either one of those 3 situations, awareness, consideration, conversion, the more you know about how to solve those problems, the better off you're going to be to provide small, mid-sized businesses with better ROI.
Understood. Jeff, anything to add to any other additional tips on, getting started to, the path to increasing digital revenue?
In our relationship with Burrell, every year we ask the exact same question: what will have the most positive impact on digital sales? And this, for 3 years running, the number one answer is training the sales reps. The number two answer is having more or better digital products to sell. So back to what Victor said and Randy said originally, and I keep saying this, but digital is nothing more than a tool in the box. You have to know when to apply the tool. And I think that what is required here is knowledge and application. You have to know the tools inside and out, and then you have to know when to apply the tools to the specific situation that you've uncovered with the client. It all starts with that customer needs analysis. That sounds like such an old 80s term, but it starts with that customer needs analysis, identifying what the client is trying to accomplish, and then looking in your toolbox and saying, should I use some targeted display? Should I use morning drive? Should I use middays? What should I use to help the client achieve their objective? It all starts and ends with the client. But in order to be prepared, you have to know what every tool in your toolbox does and what it does best and where it should specifically be applied. And then your job is easier to go out and find the applications for the specific tools. It'd be like walking into a hardware store and an enthusiastic young sales clerk coming up to you and saying, hey, you want a torque screw bit driver today? Torque screw bit driver, what the hell is that? Well, I didn't even know what a torque screw bit driver was until I've recently bought a Jeep. And a torque screw is actually a trademark. It's a 6-pointed star that allows you to tighten the screw tighter because of the way it engages, better than a Phillips head. But you would think that hardware store seller is an idiot by coming up and telling you they got a sale on torque screws before asking you, why are you here today? And that's what we have this problem. I think we're under such pressure to increase digital revenue, sell more digital. And so without intent, I think that sellers go out and try to push digital products, not knowing fully what they do or why they should be pushing them, other than the manager wants me to sell more digital. And then they start selling to the clients that may not even have the need for a torque screw. I mean, a website banner ad. And so the clients get disenchanted because it doesn't generate the kind of results they're looking for. And it's just this whole downward spiral unless we start with strategy.
Right. Great points. Large clients have their own digital marketing person or department in general. How do you recommend we deal with that? Seth, I think you had some great insights on this when we talked a little bit about this on Friday.
Yeah, there are clients out there who they might have an SEO person in-house, or they might have a social media manager in-house. And so they might need your station services. They might not need your station to do that for them. They may already be very, very competent at them. I think one of the things that is key here, we're talking about what the salespeople can sell. And I think it's the challenge that I find most often that stations have is that they're asking their salespeople to do something that they just don't feel comfortable doing, that maybe they don't understand it because of a lack of training. They've been selling 60-second spots for 30 years, and now they have to know what CPMs are and what impressions mean and click-through rate, and they don't feel comfortable talking about that. But just as often, I see programs put out there and salespeople being told, go sell this, and only 2 on a team of 12 people do, and then they come back and then management says, well, that didn't work, let's move on to the next thing, and the 2 people who actually sold it feel like they went out on a limb, and now they're left holding the bag with their client. And so I think one of the things that you've got to do is they've already got their digital marketing person in-house. Come back to the thing that your station is really good at. What is your core strength? And what radio stations are really good at is creating content that resonates with an audience. And I think salespeople understand this, and the fact that it's digital content as opposed to on-air content doesn't matter. We can create content that really is going to resonate with an audience, or in the case of your client, with their customers. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a sporting goods store in your market, and your sporting goods store, sits down with one of your salespeople and says, look, we really want to be known as the hunting experts in this market. We're really good at that. When people have questions about hunting, we want them to come ask our staff about that. The answer is, how can we create content, whether that's on the air content or digital content, that will do that? And maybe you come up with a podcast series about hunting. Maybe you've got an afternoon drive jock who's really into hunting, and he's going to host a video series with the store, some of the store clerks, and they're going to put out some stuff, and then you're going to promote that on the air. But I think that this is something that salespeople can understand, and they don't get bogged down in a conversation about, well, you got to go into Google Analytics and blah, blah, They get it, they can sell it, and they can feel comfortable selling it.
Well, a big question we got, thank you for that. A big question to sort of follow on to that is, again, I'd love to hear just, from, our experts, what do you do to get buy-in from your sales team to sell digital? That was a very common question we got. And a secondary part of that is like, how do you get your veterans? Seth mentioned, the people who've been selling spots for 30 years. How do you get them to buy in? And I'd love to start with Jeff on this one.
Well, buy-in is a function of understanding and knowing what's in it for them. And so I think, to Seth's point, getting people that have been selling 30s, 60s morning drive and sports all their life to suddenly embrace digital, they have to know why, and they have to know what's in it for them. And you read my bio, and I always like to start with why. I think strong leaders today have to use the terms why and because a lot. People aren't just going to accept at face value. Some are saying this digital thing is a fad, kind of like they say this internet thing was a fad. And so they don't understand, first of all, what it means to them personally. And one of the leading indicators right now is that digital is on fire. The growth in broadcast, the growth in advertising is clearly being led by digital. So if you want to increase your salary, if you want to increase your ability to make more money for yourself and others, you need to know this stuff. And the second thing is that clients are wanting it. Clients are buying it. So they're either going to buy it from you, or they're going to buy it from somewhere else. And one of the shocking things that we uncovered with Burrell, and they update this every year, is that people since 2 or 3 years ago have gone from buying 5 channels, 5 different types of medium, to now buying 8. But they're buying it, they used to buy it from 5 people, and now they're buying it from only 2.4. So they're buying more, but they're buying it from less people. So if you're in advertising sales and you want to continue to be in advertising sales, it's no longer an option. It's almost a necessity for you to be able to have this skill set, or they're going to buy from somebody else that does, and you're going to be retiring soon. And I hate to be so harsh, but that's the reality. You either have to grow with it or you have to go. And the choice really is in the salesperson's hands.
Victor,
make an interesting point, because when you think of kind of transformational change, people cope with change differently, but they all go through the same 4 phases. Denial, resistance, acceptance, exploration, and I think when you're a senior seller, they're kind of hoping in some ways that if they resist long enough, it'll just go away. And that's not going to happen, right? It's gonna, so it's really there's kind of a push-pull that you need to have an environment where they feel safe to learn, and where they can trust each other to grow and develop and try new things. And they need to have a leader, whether it's a sales lead or someone from the company, to be able to say, like, we're going to invest in this to try to get them to develop. And some of that I've seen some companies that have said, look, senior seller, we're going to take your sales expertise and we're going to bundle you with one of our junior digital people so that you can go out on a 4-legged call and make some magic happen. And all of a sudden, that senior seller feels really excited to kind of train and mentor someone and put some money in both their pockets. So I think that there's a variety of ways that you could re-engage, but the same way that you would need to sell someone on a format change, is the same way you're going to need to sell them on why this sales function needs to change moving forward. And the unfortunate reality is some just may not get there, Eric. That's the reality with change. Some may not adjust.
Now, Victor, would you recommend having, and Jeff, would you recommend having, in your common question we get as an aside here, and I don't have it on the slides per se, but I hear a lot of questions about, do I need dedicated salespeople? Do I need to my current sales team to sell the full stack? What is your sort of perspective on that?
Yes.
Jeff, go ahead. You take it and I'll chime in after.
I think the answer is it depends on your situation in your marketplace. If you have some, I'll just call them traditional sellers. If you have traditional sellers that are not embracing digital, and you recognize that in your market, clients are buying digital, you have to make a strategic decision as to whether or not you bring in digital experts. With our optics on all of the radio stations in North America, we're seeing it happen in completely unique and different ways, no matter who you are. Town Square Media is leading their revenue with digital these days. In revenue coming from digital is more than radio now. They just crossed that threshold this year. They're doing that because they developed their own digital in-house services agency deployed with experts, and those experts go out and call on clients in the marketplace, either in combination with or in competition with their traditional media sellers. So I think the manager has to look at what the desire level is on the sales department, understand if they want to grow, then there are tools to help them grow. There's SoCast has training, the RAB has training, Jacobs Media has training, everybody has training available, the IAB, there's no shortage of knowledge available on digital. So if your sellers are willing to do it, then by all means, train them on digital. I think that we're seeing, we saw completely digital staff, completely traditional staff, and then we saw people trying to do everything. I personally think it's next to impossible to be an expert on everything that's available in the marketplace today. And I would probably favor, and this is not an RAB position, this is a Jeff Schmidt position, I would probably favor some sort of hybrid where you have one or two digital experts that could go out on calls with others and share the success.
Understood, and that's a common thing we're finding amongst some of our more successful partners, that's what they have. They have some internal side. Everybody's educated on it, but then there's the subject matter experts in house who can really sort of be the sales engineers to the more advanced questions and really support as well until everybody is on a playing field.
You look at medicine as the metaphor here. You've got doctors who specialize in cardiology, oncology, and then you have your general practice doctors. They all have a specialty. You go to your general practice doctor. When the general practice doctor feels like she's over her head, she's going to send you to a specialist who deals with that specific ailment. So the same metaphor, but much better pricing than healthcare, could be in play here. So now Victor gets to tell me all the things I said wrong.
No, I think you're bang on, Jeff. I think that it really depends on the operation, because there's no one magic bullet that's going to solve it, because it's different for every broadcaster, whether you're small or multi-market. It's going to be very different, because you need to build it for your market needs and for your people. So I think radio might be one of the only industries, and I've been doing this a long time, where you had to prospect for people, you had to cold call, you had to get appointments, do CNAs, now sometimes write your own copy, book your own orders. Like, we're asking people to do an awful lot of stuff, where some of these new media companies have come out to say, hey, my best cold callers, I'm going to get them to set up appointments all day long. The people who have best strategy, I'm going to get them to do presentations. The salespeople with relationships, I'm going to get them to use those relationships to bring teams in. So there's a variety of different ways that you can do it. But you, as if I owned my own radio group, I would be focused on what is going to work for my team, and build out a path accordingly to yield those results.
If I can build off what Victor is saying, when you look at other industries, they use the word marketing differently than the way we use the word marketing in radio. In radio, when we talk about marketing, we are usually talking about staff or resources that are used to build the audience. In every other industry, when you talk about marketing, you are talking about staff and resources that are used to build sales. Okay, the Coca-Cola marketing department there is there to sell more Coke. And yet in radio, we don't have marketing people who are there to sell more ads. We do exactly what Victor just said, which is that we require salespeople to also be marketing people. And they're two different skill sets, frankly. And I say this as a guy who, I think I'm pretty good at marketing, but I know I'm terrible at sales. And I should not be a salesperson, but I could be a marketing person. And I think the more that we can separate out those roles, and that radio should really have marketing initiatives on the audience building side, but separate marketing initiatives over on the sales side of the building, marketing teams that are there just to generate leads for the salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, Seth, too, because when you take that layer and put it into a generational gap, you start to get some younger millennials that will say, like, I don't want to be in sales. They love the thrill of creating ideas and getting those ideas to come to fruition, but they just don't like the term sales. They want to be called account managers or account executives, and that adds a whole other layer of complexity to a sales organization in terms of structure.
Well, and to Seth's point, the better you are at marketing, the less good you have to be at sales. Because if you're good at coming up with marketing strategies that are going to drive results for the clients, they're going to want to buy them more than you're going to want to sell them. So,
and that comes back to what you guys talked about earlier, is branding the corporate side, your organization, not just your stations as the solution, but your entire broadcast company, whether you're 2 stations or across markets in a whole state or beyond that, regionally or nationally even. It's really looking at yourselves as being a solution provider for those as well. I am going to cut this one off. We have a lot more to go here, and I do want to be cognizant of time, and certainly maybe we need to do another Ask the Experts webinar like tomorrow, but we'll figure that out next. But I wanted to come back to Randy and Seth and ask them, when radio broadcasters are looking at their sort of digital infrastructure and their tool sets that they have, what tips do you have, with looking at your partners, looking at the digital tools you have to make sure you have the right set and some of the advantages that you recommend looking for? Start off with Randy.
Okay, yeah. I think I'm gonna say on the radio marketing side, where you're at the station, the programming level, I think it's very important to basically follow your audience, your fans across the internet, online, follow them everywhere. So, very important is to have online contesting tools. I know SoCast offers an online contesting tool. Social media management tools. You want to be able to see where your audience is, what they're doing, and what their behaviors are on a daily and a weekly basis. So I think it's very important to have those types of tools. As far as for your clients, again, I was going to say this earlier, my dream is that we eventually don't have this separate thing called digital revenue or digital, everything, because honestly, we need to be providing to our clients everything that they need to solve their challenges and to bring them solutions. So that is, for right now, they on the other side need to be following their potential clients and leads around the internet. So that is the targeted display, the banner ads, the pre-roll that we can offer. So those types of tools are very important. And if we want to email newsletters as well, those are still. And again, that goes back to doing it correctly. You're not just, there's a term called push and pull, right? And so when you're talking about clients and audience, you want to be putting out quality content and your emails and your social and all of that, where you're not having to constantly try to pull them in. Instead, they're seeing it, and to the point of the corporate branding and things, they're seeing it and they want to come to you, right? And so anything that you can do to not have to continually try to pull those clients in by look what we're doing, and they're like, okay, I'll take a look. You're not forcing them to come. you want to be doing that. So any of those types of tools that you want to utilize that can do that. So again, the targeted display, the programmatic ads, which are huge. And like I said, you want to make sure that you are creating quality content for those things. So it's not just like you're throwing up a quick salesy, thing that looks like a sales ad, but you're really drawing them in.
Right. That's great. Seth, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether this was digital marketing tools that you need to reach your audience or digital marketing tools that you need to offer. Randy
let's
answered
have you
both.
look at it from the perspective of digital tools to reach your audience as well.
Audience. So I am not aware, I have never had a radio station come to me and say, we have too many staffers and they don't have enough to do, and we have all this budget and we don't know where to spend it. Every radio station I know has limited resources. And so it's about what do we have to do? And I always come back to, it's your website and email marketing first. I have had more conversations about email marketing 101 since the pandemic started than anything else. And I get it, that's not as sexy as TikTok or Clubhouse or whatever social network the intern discovered over the weekend, but these are the workhorses. And this is where I think you really need to invest your resources. Test your website, run a usability test, go get Rocket Surgery Made Easy, which is a great book by a guy named Steve Krug. He'll teach you how to do it in an hour. Run a website usability to get a sense of what real people think when they sit down in front of your website and they look at it. Work on your email campaigns. Social media stations tend to be pretty good at because they like it. Search engine optimization tends to be very, very overlooked by most radio companies. Google drives a lot of traffic, and if you can figure out how to tap into that, there's a lot of value there. So I would come back to some of the basics and get really, really, really good at the basics rather than, I remember when we all had to be on Snapchat right up until we all didn't, so I'm a little less worried about the shiny new thing.
Right. Yeah, we hear a lot of that. And I mean, from our experience still with our partners, 90% of their social media referrals, meaning, the click-throughs back to their website, are coming back through Facebook still. And like the remaining 10%, 90% of that remaining 10% is still Twitter. And it's really those two that dominate. As many shiny balls that are out there with Snapchat and everything like that, it's really those two that are still driving the majority of traffic that isn't coming from, search and all of that as well. So really important to maintain, sort of stay the course on those from our perspective at SoCast anyways. And that's it. I do want to say we have a number of questions still, and it is coming up on the 3 o'clock hour, for which we do have to get our panelists off. We are probably, this falls to me, just to be honest, in that we got excited and shared a lot of great insights with you. What I'm going to recommend is we'll probably bring our panelists back. I'll negotiate with them, pay them the big bucks to make it a secondary one, to come back and address some more questions in the coming months. But at this point, I do want to sort of get to the end, and I wish we could have got through all of the questions. Really my bad. We have so much more to share with you, so we will consider coming back. I do want to thank all of our panelists, the amazing Victor Giacomelli, the amazing Seth Resler, the brilliant Jeff Schmidt, and the equally brilliant Randy Papul. I want to thank you all, guys, for joining us and sharing all of your insights. I am going to bug you guys following this to come back and maybe do a round 2, part 2, if you will, as we say in Canada, to come back and do this. We will be sharing this presentation as well as a recording of this. And again, stay tuned for maybe a follow-up panel. And I want to thank you guys all again. Everybody have a good time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
A lot of fun.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Before we go, I do want to say that we are always here at SoCast to help you out. If you have questions, I know there was a number of questions. I'll be following up with you in person, myself, and getting our team to answer any questions, but you can always reach out to me for this presentation, a copy of our digital checklist or content cheat sheet at eric@socastdigital.com. You can always book a demo with us, and we are offering all of our attendees here today who may not be with us If you sign up between now and June 10th, you get 33% off your first year of licensing. We can talk more about that in a product presentation. For now, I want to make sure all of you are out there knowing that SoCast is available to help you with all of your digital engagement and revenue that situations that you need. We can really help you achieve all of your goals. We have an integrated platform and a unique tool set, as well as the expertise to help you grow that. Please reach out to me for a demo. Until next time, my friends, and sorry to have to cut us off with so many great questions still to remain. We'll get back to them. I want to thank you all, and I wish everybody an amazing Tuesday. Have yourselves a great rest of the week. And to those of our friends in the United States, happy Memorial Day coming up. We'll look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Great job, Eric.